Welcome to the Veterinary Culture Lab, where science meets real-world application. I'm Andi Davison.
And I'm Josh Weissman. Together, we'll show you an evidence-based blueprint for renovating culture in your veterinary team, one episode at a time.
What happens when resilience isn't just encouraged, but taught? In this episode, we're digging into the power of resilience education. We'll explore a study involving first-year veterinary students, the impact of learning these skills early, and what it means for all of us, no matter where we are in our career.
What's going on, Andi Davison?
Oh my gosh, how are you, Josh Weissman?
I'm okay. I'm genuinely curious. It is towards the end of July here.
Okay.
Are you still in I only go outside at 5 a.m. and 10 p.m. mode?
You had better be done with your stuff outside by 10 o'clock, 10:30 at the latest. And then don't even think about it again until closer to 5. And then, it's still a little bit warm, and maybe 6 or 7, it starts to get tolerable again. But don't worry, because it's going to rain all afternoon. So you really don't want to go outside anyway.
Anyway, yeah. The horses. So, okay, if I lived in North Florida where you live, I would be an insufferable, intolerable human being to be around this time of year. Do the horses react in any way like that, or do they not care?
My horses are pretty darn good. Some horses don't do well here for that reason, right? It's just too hot, it's too humid, and it's just not what they need. Mine do pretty well. I have thoroughbreds, remember, so they're pretty adaptable, and Marshall's pretty darn adaptable too. They get a little bit more time off than usual. So a lot of times when you have people that ride up north, they give their horses off in the winter because it's cold and it's snowy and it's icy and it's icky and nobody wants to go outside and ride. It's kind of the flip side down here. So a lot of times for those of us that live here year round, we give our horses time off in the summer. And with the weather that we've been experiencing, which has been a ridiculous amount of rain, more than usual, I've actually given my horses the last about week and a half off because it's just hot and it's miserable and nobody wants to do it. And so they get to hang out in the barn behind fans and eat hay when it's hot during the day. And then they go out overnight when it's much cooler, and they're cool with this plan.
And how does Andi respond to not getting on the back of a horse for a week and a half?
It's okay. It's okay. Andi needs the break every once in a while as well. Andi gets cranky when it's hot outside as well. And so there are benefits to everyone involved to take a bit of a summer break.
So, Greta and I don't have horses, but we have a very large dog that we like to think of as our horse, Rue. Rue loves to bake in the sun. Addie's not as big a fan. She'll do it for a little bit, but Rue loves to bake in the sun. And we've determined that there's 4 levels of baking. So level 1 is we go outside and he plops in some sort of super sunny area in the backyard and just soaks it up. And you can he has this look of pure joy and contentment on his face when he first gets out there. Then comes level 2. I've been sitting in the sunny spot long enough. I have to move to the cool grass. So I'm probably still going to be in the sun, but I'm going to be lying on the cool grass, right? Then level 3 is I find a shady spot in the grass. But I'm not going in yet. I still need to be outside. Level 4 is I am rolling around like a roly-poly sausage in the grass. And then he needs to go inside. He will stretch it out as far as he possibly can. And I don't know how this is my dog. I don't get it.
Mine will go outside and lay on the concrete slab. Like we have at the bottom of the deck, you have the concrete slab. They will go out there this time of day, so right in the middle of the day, in the middle of July, and they will just roast. And that's what we call it. It's time to go roast. And then I leave them out there for a few minutes, but not too long because it's hot, man. So I'll open the door and I'll be like, are you done cooking? Is the timer up yet? And they come in the door and we go ding, ding, and they come. But I think that's just a dog. That's a dog thing. They want to bake in the sun.
Your dogs go outside and you or Mike are like, we're having brisket for dinner.
Right. I'm like, really?
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Dogs are goofy. The worst thing about the dogs, though, is when they go out there after about this. It rains, right? Which means that everything gets muddy and dirty. And they come back in the house with their muddy, dirty craziness and they get it all over everything. And then now you're doing an extra little laundry. And it's like, I adult enough all week. I'm just curious though, living in Florida, have you ever thought about like how you might do that laundry if you lived, say, on the beach?
Josh, I haven't thought about that.
Oh, Andy, you would just use Tide.
Good one. Very good. Yes.
No, not good at all. But thank you for indulging me.
Fan of a dad joke now. I'm ready for it.
I've converted you?
I mean, it was always there. It was never like a big push. It was always there. Like the puns, I am all over like a silly, silly pun. The dad jokes, it's that buildup. Like, I think this is it. Yep, this is it. Okay, where's it going? Like that's the fun part for me.
Awesome. Well, glad to be the deliverer of joy today.
Definitely. Always the joy. All right. So I've got a really good article for us today, and I'm really excited to talk about it with you.
So am I.
But before we do, I want to start with a question. And it's one of those questions that kind of lodges itself in your brain and refuses to leave. What gives you hope for our profession? Now, I was recently on a panel for the Florida Veterinary Medical Association's Inspire Well project, which is a super program that I will definitely link in the show notes because everybody needs to hear about it. It's fantastic. And as a part of this panel, I had the privilege of sitting alongside some seriously amazing thought leaders in our field. And that question came up, and it really gave me pause because it matters. Sure, we talk a lot about what's right in vet med, what it looks like to support one another, what's possible, but it really all stems down to that question. So I sat with it for a second, and I remember on the panel, I was sitting there, and I responded with something along the lines of, the thing that gives me hope about vet med is the fact that we are all here talking about well-being. And that's what I meant, right? Well-being, the fact that we're talking about it, positive psychology, burnout, resilience, the hard stuff, the human stuff, the things that we used to whisper about or not talk about at all. Because when I was in school, these topics, they did not exist in the curriculum. They didn't show up in rounds. They didn't show up in conversations with your mentor or even in hallway chats with your classmates. If you were struggling, the best case scenario was to keep quiet, push through, and hope nobody noticed. Now, admittedly, that was a long time ago, and things have started to change. We've got schools that are teaching resilience as part of their programs, clinics that are building these in to their continuing education moments, doing check-ins with their staff. Teams are using words like psychological safety, and they actually know what it means. Now, we're not there yet, but the fact that well-being is no longer hiding in the shadows, that is what gives me hope for our profession. And I've been sitting with that a lot lately because today's article, it took me back to that moment. We're looking at a paper today by Jenny Moffett and David Bartram. And the paper and the research behind it looks at the value of implementing resilience training in the first year of veterinary school and how students engage with the concepts that are taught, which made for a great read that scientifically supports what you and I already know to be true, that resilience matters. And not only does it matter, it can be taught, cultivated, and grown. So, Josh, before we jump into the research itself, I would love to hear from you because you have been in this profession as long as me, which is only a couple of years.
2 or 3.
Just a few. And you've seen the shift, right? Because we're not necessarily talking about medicine anymore. We're talking about the humans that are practicing this medicine. So my big question for you is, Josh, what gives you hope in our profession?
Yeah, I love that question, Andy. And I loved your response, by the way, in the Inspire panel. I thought that was excellent. I think of hope, I've come to think of hope as optimism in action. Optimism can be kind of a passive thing. You can sit back and just assume that everything's going to work out, but not do anything about it. Hope is taking that optimism and putting action behind it. So when I think of what gives me hope for our profession now and into the future, I think back to a piece of research that we conducted together at the end of 2022, where we looked at veterinary team experiences in their workplace. We essentially tried to measure like their experience with leadership and then sentiments as well, job satisfaction, turnover, intention, things like that. This was a convenient sampling study that we did so anybody could participate. And we put out into the community like, hey, if you work in a veterinary practice of some kind and you have a boss of some kind, so you're not the hospital owner, right? Or you're not the CEO of the organization, you report to somebody. We would love to hear about your experience with your boss. Please take our survey. And I got to be honest with you, I tend to be a very, glass half full type of human being, but I'm also a realist. And I thought, we're letting anybody in vet med who works in a veterinary setting come tell us about their boss. Who are the ones that are going to want to take the time to take our survey? The people who hate their boss, right? So that's what I thought we were going to get a lot of. And to be clear, we did. We got some of that for sure. But there were essentially three categories of people who responded. People who said, what we were ultimately measuring were not like, do you like your boss or not, or do you have a good boss? We were measuring positive leadership behaviors. We were asking people, here's a list of positive leadership behaviors. We didn't call them that. We just said a list of behaviors. Does your boss do these things or not? Three possible categories. One of them was, no, they don't do that. One was, yes, they do that. And the other was, I'm not really sure. Neutral, right? Somewhere in the middle. I thought that the largest group would be the ones that were like, oh no, our bosses don't do these positive leadership behaviors. I was wrong. The largest group, 36% of our data set, the largest group said, oh yeah, my boss does some version of that. That gives me hope because that's optimism in action. That's people taking charge of what's possible for the future of our profession. And as long as that's the largest group out there, we can only go up from here.
I just got the warm and fuzzies. It's a beautiful reminder of what is happening out there and what is possible.
Agreed.
Okay, so let's jump into this paper because it is fascinating and super fun. And it really hit home for me because of the topic, but also because of the timing. So with this paper, we're actually going back 8 years. And I know now, in research years, we would be smart to run some pre-op blood work here. But what I think is that the fact that it's older research actually makes it a little bit more powerful. Now, the study, which is titled Veterinary Students' Perspectives on Resilience and Resilience Building Strategies, is by Moffett and Bartram, and it was published in the Journal of Veterinary Medical Education before the pandemic, before global well-being movements got the traction that they have now, before burnout was a focus of study, and before resilience and work-life balance and self-efficacy were part of our common language. And yet, here it is, a whole study that is rooted in the idea that we can teach veterinary students to take care of themselves, that resilience can be supported, strengthened, and made a part of the veterinary curriculum. And back in 2017, this was a pretty radical idea. So here's the setup. Researchers followed a group of 105 first-year veterinary students in the UK. The students took part in a formal self-care and well workshop as part of their professional skills course. And no, Josh, I don't mean a little 1 hour, Zoomy Zoom, check the boxes type of event. This was an all-day, 6-hour in-person session. There was pre-work involved that included positive psychology readings. There were deep dive videos and even a gratitude assessment. Now, they paired this with what's called the Connor-Davidson Resilience Scale, which students completed before they did the workshop and 1 month after the workshop was complete. The results? The workshop worked. Researchers reported that a measurable boost was noticed in resilience scores. Now, more importantly, students reported feeling stronger in their ability to bounce back from challenges that were coming up for them. They viewed themselves as resilient people. And that self-concept shift in your mind, in your brain, that's huge. It's the difference between I'm barely hanging on to, you know what? This is a challenge and I have tools to get through it and I believe that I can. And here's what I really loved about this study. They implemented focus groups and they shared the stories, right, that came out of these focus groups. Now, some of the students shared how they were skeptical at first. Like one even thought that the gratitude journal part was, quote, absolutely pathetic, and she didn't really want to participate in it. And I appreciate them for their honesty. But most of the time, students ended up coming around after they experienced the actionable steps, after they went through the trainings, they appreciated it. And they understood that they were learning ways to become resilient before things got hard for them, before exam season, before the overwhelm set in, before that self-doubt spiral started gaining traction in your mind. They also shared that resilience isn't a one-size-fits-all. It's shaped by past experiences, upbringing, mindset, support system, and even failure. In fact, a few of the students said that it wasn't until they failed at something that they had the opportunity to utilize these skills and develop resilience because of it, which totally tracks, right? And as I was reading, I kept thinking, this could totally apply to tech school as well. Long hours, high expectations. Tech students often carry just as much weight emotionally and academically as veterinary students. We still don't see a lot of intentional resilience training for tech students either. What if we did? Such an opportunity. Now, the article, it wraps up with a few key takeaway points. The first one's a big one. It reminds us that our ability to respond productively to adversity isn't necessarily limited by our innate abilities. And what that means is that we can learn these skills. We're not stuck with what we're given. We actually have control to go and learn these skills and implement them into our lives. And that if we can bring this education in early, that it can create a stronger foundation, not just for our academic success, but for the long-term well-being of our profession overall. So yeah, for me, when I finished reading this article, I thought, you know what? If we're talking about this 8 years ago, before the pandemic, before all of these, quote fingers, unprecedented times, how much more vital is it now? So Josh, I'm curious, this paper, it really emphasizes the importance of learning resilience early on and the role of reflection, the role of perspectives, and even failure when it comes to building our resilience skills. Some of these students, they were pretty skeptical going into the process. And honestly, I think that's true for a lot of folks in vet med when it comes to well-being work. So Josh, how have you handled some of this skepticism when you've encountered it? And how have you helped shift that conversation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm thinking about the first thing that came to mind for me as I was listening to you paint this picture of the skepticism and the role of like well-being interventions and stuff. This takes me back actually quite a few years ago now, very early on in my career. So Andy, this is before you and I met, before there was anybody else involved with Flourish. It was just me, and I was doing a workshop essentially on resiliency skills for a group of technicians.
Yeah.
But they were all in leadership positions, and some of them actually had small businesses of their own. We were talking a little bit about positive psychology and PERMA and ways to build resiliency, explanatory style, all those kinds of things, right? And about halfway through the day, I'll never forget, this gentleman, there was 60-something people in the room, and this gentleman raises his hand and he says, Josh, this is all fine and dandy, but it's not my job to make people happy. I pay them to do a job. They should do it. That should be enough. Mm. Like, he was highly skeptical of not just the material itself, but the role that he should play as an employer in supporting these kinds of things, supporting the resiliency of the people around him. And it does, in some ways, I'll tell you how I responded in a second, but in some ways it does remind me of this paper, of this particular study, because I think so often we do think of resilience as like not just an innate ability, but as a personal responsibility. And one of the things that you've already mentioned here, which we know conclusively from the research, is that resilience is not a solo endeavor. Resilience is always has a social element to it. We are significantly more resilient when we're resilient together, period. And so what a study like this does is it actually like leverages that, right? Because they applied this. It wasn't individuals going off on their own doing it. It was a group of veterinary students who were going to be spending 4 years together, intimately, closely together, spending an entire day together learning about how to elevate their resiliency skills. So I think that that's an awesome use of that social component. So, okay, back to the story. So gentleman raises his hand, says this, right? And you can, I mean, picture it. Andi, you've been in these things before, right? You're having a pretty good day. You're delivering your material. You feel like you're on your A game. And then somebody raises their hand and is like, Andi, I don't know. This feels like a can of bullshit that you're trying to feed me here, right? And everybody else in the room is just watching to see how you're going to respond. I paused. I nodded. I took a breath and I said to him, "You're right. It is not your responsibility to deliver happiness for every person on your team. And if the way that you're leading right now is getting from your team what you're happy with, don't make any additional effort. But if you want people to deliver the best that they have to give in your organization, you're working with human beings, and human beings have needs. And one of those needs is to feel like they can give their best and know that they're going to get something of value in return, something that matters to them personally and psychologically. And if that's important to you, then this is going to need to be important to you." And then I moved on. He stayed for the rest of the day, by the way.
Heck yeah, he did. Yeah. There's always skeptics.
I think skepticism is actually quite healthy.
Yeah. Yep. When I first started with Flourish, I was terrified of the skeptics. I was terrified. And I know y'all are out there, and I was scared of you. And I very quickly learned to welcome them with open arms. I love a good skeptic because it starts a conversation that is probably already happening in somebody's brain somewhere else in the room. It lays it all out on the table. It allows for you to really bring it home in a way that's unique, and it makes it real. And it's not this, there's this really great thing and it's called resilience. It's no. This is what it looks like for you, and this is what it means. And a lot of times that wouldn't come up if it wasn't for the skeptic. So hurrah for the skeptic.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that the best approach that we can take when in any educational context, but certainly with this kind of stuff that I think engenders a certain level of healthy skepticism. I think oftentimes our natural response is to want to defend, right? Like to show the skeptic that what they're thinking or how they're thinking about it, they're just missing something or they've got it wrong or something like that, right? Like we want to do that often. I actually have come to realize that the best thing to do with a skeptic, to use your language, is to welcome them with open arms, validate their perspective, and encourage enough openness from them for the possibility of their mind to be changed or their skepticism to be diminished, and then have that conversation and see what happens. And if they change their mind, great. And if they don't, that's fine. At least they gave you the opportunity.
Yep, absolutely. Now, we've talked about the study, right? We've talked about the paper. We've talked about the results. And something else kind of hit me as I was reading through this paper, because let's be real, the paper isn't just about veterinary students. It's actually about all of us, all of us in vet med, because those first year students, they're ultimately just us at the starting line of our career, whether we're veterinarians, whether we're technicians, whether we're credentialed or not, we all started at the starting line. And this paper is a beautiful illustration of what that could look like. The study is basically holding up a mirror and it's saying, hey, we are giving our people what they need to actually survive this and thrive in it. And it's one thing to teach resilience at the beginning of somebody's journey, but then, life happens, life be lifin', and the pressure kicks in. What if you never got a 6-hour resilience workshop on day one of your career? What if no one is talking about this in your environment? What if the first time you heard the word well-being in vet med was like last year? That's the reality for a lot of us. For many seasoned techs, veterinarians, CSRs, other leaders, this was not a part of the curriculum because it wasn't even on the radar yet. And so now we're in this situation where we've got some folks that are learning these tools early on, and other folks are trying to build the plane mid-flight, also while trying to carry a clinic on their back. And on top of that, what happens when systems that we work in every day actively chip away at the resilience that we already do have? So there was a lot going on in my brain with this one. And it's just so clear that there is a need for balance here somewhere, because we've got people that are entering the profession with an understanding of well-being, right? And a significant number of people that are deep in their career experience that never got that support. And they're trying to figure it out as they go along. And finding that balance is something that I get really, really curious about. What do you think about that?
I think that that's going back to what we talked about earlier, the social element here. I think that's a wonderful opportunity to invite conversation, to take, to bring the folks who have gone through this or have some level of understanding of this and the folks that haven't, and bring them together and invite perspective sharing from both and look for common ground and try and determine how each can help each other gain new perspectives and share some of their common knowledge. And I think that both sides of that would come out stronger because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So bring in communication, right? And have those conversations and get curious. There it is again. Get curious with what that means for you and how it can be implemented in your world and what that could look like. Yeah.
100%.
The other thing that came up for me here, and I'd love your thoughts on this as well. Students in the study said that it helped just knowing that the vet school they were in cared enough to teach this stuff to them. What have you seen modeled in vet med, Josh? By leaders, by peers, by team members that quietly reinforce the message that your well-being matters here and we care enough?
I love this question. Well-being, I think that we all need to think of it this way. Well-being, not wellness necessarily, but well-being itself is interpersonal. And so the reason that I'm saying that is because I think where a lot of organizations miss the mark here is that they do actually care. They do actually care about the well-being of their people. I got to be honest with you. I've been very, very fortunate in my career to cross paths with and have some really cool conversations with a lot of folks in very high level leadership positions, people that are overseeing organizations of thousands, tens of thousands, even more than that, veterinary professionals. And I can count on one hand, and it won't take me all 5 fingers, how many of those people actually really just don't give a shit about people's well-being. Well, pretty much everybody in this profession actually really does care about the mental health and well-being of the people in the profession. But caring is not demonstrating. There's a difference. And I think that where organizations miss the mark is that they feel like, well, we care, and so therefore we're going to invest in an EAP. We care, and so therefore we're going to invest in these perks and benefits. We're going to put healthy snacks in the break room. We're going to have some sort of a workout benefit. We're going to arrange for, a walkathon, something like that. Like if we do those things, then that will show people that we care. And that is not how people know we care. People don't know that they are cared for from afar. They know that they are cared for up close. And so if we want to show people that we care, we need to create systems in which someone who matters in their daily experience is demonstrating care to them on a day-to-day basis. So to ultimately answer your question, the quiet ways that reinforce the message your well-being matters here is someone up close to you showing you that they care about your well-being. For example, your manager routinely checking in on you, not because they're trying to manage your performance, but because they genuinely want to know how you're doing. And not just how you're doing, but when are you doing your best? When do you light up? What gets you really excited here? What's the next adventure you'd like to overcome? Like all of those kinds of things, those are demonstrations that you matter here. And if I can show you that you matter here, you're going to believe that your well-being matters too.
It's a great segue into the action section, right? Because now we get to talk more about what that could look like. What some of these small things could actually look like out in your world. Ways to show those people that you care. Ways to get close enough to them to show them that they matter and that you care. So this article, it reiterates that value of moments. It reiterates the value of small conversations, intentional efforts, small things. It's that small effort. And when it comes to that, when it comes to implementing that in your clinic, I think one of the biggest takeaways and one of the biggest things to remember is to make resilience a visible thing in your clinic. Now, we've touched on this already, but it's worth bringing it back up. Often, resilience is treated as this personal project. Like you do you go over there and figure out what you need to be resilient and then come back to work resilient and ready to go. And that is cringy because resilience is not something that you do alone in your own time. It's actually a fantastic group project, right? And we all know how everybody feels about a group project, but I guarantee you this one is worth it. This one is worth it because it brings everybody in around you and it makes it a true group project. And it reminds you that you don't have to do it alone. And I think talking about it is critical. Talking about resilience, what it is, how you define it, and maybe implement that conversation into your workday. Maybe at your morning huddle, maybe an afternoon round. You ask, what is something that helped you bounce back this week? Who is somebody that supported you when you were struggling this week? Make it a part of the conversation. You're nodding. What else do you have to contribute here?
Oh, no, I think that's absolutely lovely. I think that, dissecting like what are elements of resilience that are happening here already that are important that can, boost the sense of resiliency and then making it a part of the conversation. I really love that, the sort of quick around the circle at the end of rounds or something like, hey, Andi, what's something that helped you bounce back this week? Like this week has not been easy for anyone on this team. What's something that helped you bounce back, or who supported you when you needed it most this week? Like asking those kinds of things can be very, very powerful. Andi, you're probably aware of this as well. There's some research that suggests that there's a form of resiliency called vicarious resilience, which is basically the boost in resilience that we get when we see others being resilient. So an example of this, a very clear example of this is you see some sort of a natural disaster on TV. And of course, the first thing that happens is a form of sympathy or empathy. And, your heart goes out to people. You want to do something great. Eventually, almost every time, stories start to come out of the amazing things that people did to help each other or to get through it or to overcome, right? Like those kinds of things. And when we see those stories, more often than not, we actually feel more powerful in our resiliency because we see average people, quote unquote, going through incredibly unbelievable horrors and coming out the other side okay. And then we think, well, gosh, maybe I could do that too. So your example of like the huddle is like, it's basically a form of vicarious resilience. So it's helping the individual see the resiliency support system that they already have around them and helping everybody else see that this is a place where we can be resilient. I love it.
It's like the social contagion of resilience.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Well said.
The other thing that I think is worth considering also was really stressed in this article, right? The value of education when it comes to resilience and the value of offering skills and offering resiliency education to veterinary professionals. And at Flourish, this is kind of our jam, right? Because we offer a variety of educational opportunities to boost your resilience skills. We have everything from an on-demand course all the way up to an in-depth deep dive masterclass. Now, I'm going to do a shameless plug because I teach the Resiliency Masterclass, the Certificate in Applied Veterinary Resilience, and I love it. It's one of my very favorite things that we do here because I get to show veterinary professionals that they already have what it takes to thrive and how to intentionally build upon that in order to walk towards their careers in veterinary medicine, knowing that that next adversity is just around the corner, that they have the self-efficacy to get through it in a way that's productive. So there's a lot of different options and opportunities and ways to bring these skills to you or your veterinary teams to set them up for success in that way. And of course, there will be links in the show notes to some of those options. And if that sounds like something that would fit well in your team, definitely check them out and definitely reach out to us. Now, Josh, I'm going to end with one more question because I really would like to know, what about you? What is one way that you've seen a team out in the world, the teams that you've worked with, actually build resilience, like consistent long-term resilience? A lot of times we're really good at talking about it. We talk about what we're going to do. We can do it really great for a couple of weeks and then it trickles off. But I would love to hear a story about a team that has implemented resilience and has kept it consistent moving forward.
Yeah. One of the things that's been troubling to me is that I think that good people with good intentions often mistakenly deliver on those intentions in unhelpful ways. And one of those is that sometimes we conflate resilience with like a form of stoicism that's almost robotic, like this expectation that, Andi, I need you to be resilient so that you never falter again, so that you're always like at your A game, which is inhuman. There's no such thing as a person that's always at 100% of their full potential 100% of the time. That's not possible. So one thing that I've seen be pretty effective, there was an organization, a vet hospital. The hospital owner there would routinely, like as part of like the onboarding process with new team members, would routinely sit down with them and have a conversation that basically went some version of this. You know, Andi, listen, in this practice, you're going to have mistakes. You're going to screw up. There's going to be off days where you're not at your best. If you don't have any of those, I will question why I hired you, because I don't hire perfect people. So I expect to hear about those so that you and I can work through them together and we can explore what both of us can learn when those moments occur. What a beautiful way to establish an environment of resilience. Yeah. Because resilience is not about being perfect. Resilience is about what do we learn from imperfection to help us the next time this type of a scenario comes up again. And that's what this hospital owner, medical director, whatever role she was in, was basically doing with her team. It was awesome.
And I love that because they did it at the beginning of their time at that hospital, right? Which lines up with this study that shows value in reiterating that resiliency is a thing and that we can learn and do it together at the start of your journey. That's great. That's really great. You know what else is great?
Oh, I think I do, but tell me.
This week's Florida Man.
Oh my God, my favorite.
All right, this is a good one. This week, our Florida Man comes to us from Port St. Lucie, which is down on the ocean side, just south of like Daytona. It's north of Miami, south of Daytona. Yes. So southern Florida. Florida man pulled over during a traffic stop, claims his dog was driving.
Wait, was the dog actually driving? Because that would be like...
I'm laughing because I don't know. Like, that is actually a possibility. It's Florida. So my first thought is, well, of course not. The dog wasn't driving. But you know what? There's a very good chance that the dog was driving.
There's so much gold in this. Okay, was the dog driving? Which, to your point, damn good chance.
It's a good chance.
If the dog was driving, how many times had the dog driven before? But also, like, what did he think was going to happen? Like, Hey, I'm sorry, officer. The dog was driving. Oh, in that case, you know what? Just go about your day. Like, what? Really? Like, this is going to be helpful?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess it goes back to how many times the dog has driven before.
I'm sorry, the dog is driving. He only has his learner's permit. We haven't quite gotten to the driver's license yet.
Give him a break. He can't reach the pedals.
That is amazing. Oh,
Fabulous.
my gosh.
Yep. Only in Florida. Only in Florida.
Wait, one more question. Does the article indicate what kind of dog it was? Because I'm sure that there are people out there who will want to know.
Oh, that's a good question. There is a picture associated with the article, and it's like a mastiffy looking dog.
Oh, well, then clearly it was not a good driver. Okay,
Right.
I get it now.
Right. Yeah. So yeah. All
That's a
right.
good one.
On that note, that is all the time we have for today. But I am so glad that you joined us here in the Veterinary Culture Lab. It's always fun to hang out. And as usual, check out the show notes for all the links, the article info, the link to that FVMA Inspire program. It's good stuff. And of course, the Florida Man article from today. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you again next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for hanging out with us in the Veterinary Culture Lab, powered by the science of workplace well-being and brought to you by Flourish Veterinary Consulting. If today's episode sparked an idea, made you smile, or got you thinking, hey, I should totally try that, let us know. What do you think? Be sure to subscribe, share, and remember, a thriving veterinary culture is possible, and you don't have to build it alone.